Okay. Hi, I'm Metta Spencer in Toronto, and today you get to go to Georgia. Now, this is not the state Georgia, this is the country Georgia, and I think it's also a city called Tbilisi. And you get to meet a Georgian poet. I bet you didn't know you were going to get to talk to a Georgian poet today when you got up, did you? I Not every day you get to do that. Well, this is my friend Irakli Kakabadze, who is in Georgia, and he is at his computer, and we're going to get caught up because I haven't seen him in a few years, and he's a very active man who's always getting in trouble. So I want to see what trouble he's been in lately. Hello, Irakli.
Hello, very nice to see you, Metta. And long time haven't seen you, and you look wonderful as always, and as energetic as always, and that keeps me very hopeful for the future of the world.
Well, we're both going to save the world, except I get a notice here, something about there's a little warning that something's not totally right with our recording, but it hasn't said it's not going, so we're going to
Uh,
act as if it's okay.
we're gonna
So,
act as it's recording because it says recording on my screen too. So I guess it's recording somehow.
okay, well, good. We've got something going. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure there's anybody watching at the moment, but we will edit this and put it online.
great.
And eventually somebody will see it in some form. So, hello, and let's get started. Boy, do we have ground to cover because the last time I saw you, you were sort of in exile away
Yes.
from your country because you've gotten tangled up with some politician that you didn't like or something. I don't know whether you want to talk about that or let's talk about what you're doing recently, which may be more uplifting to everybody since you've become a born again Gandhian, right?
Born again.
You're
Absolutely. That's for
your
sure.
your relative and my dear friend Jill Carr Harris has converted you, and she's pretty good at evangelism for Gandhiism, right?
She's been to
Anyway, I'm
Georgia a number
joking.
of times. Yeah, she's been to Georgia
Yeah,
a
well,
number of times since we've seen each other. You and I have seen each other last time. Since 2015, she's been to Georgia a number of times. I can't even recall, but she and her husband, Raj Gopal PV, had a lot of influence on us, and not just on us, but in Georgia, in Armenia. And
uh-huh.
I should tell you that, of course, they had we founded Gandhi Foundation Georgia in 2014, and then by the end of 2015, we founded um, Gandhi Foundation Armenia, which is headed by our dear friend Arsen Kharatian. And Armenia has been a really amazing story, Armenian Velvet Revolution, which was very much like Gandhi Salt March, which was
Mhm.
conducted by the Prime Minister now, Nikol Pashinyan, who's an incredible guy. And right now, of course, Armenia is in a big trouble, and we need to stand beside Armenia because it was attacked by a number of foes,
Can you speak
including,
louder?
yes, including Russia, Azerbaijan, Turkey, and others. And right now, it's very, very difficult situation in Armenia because Armenia is surrounded by by different forces, and it's if the world is not acting today to save Armenia, it's going to be another genocide, I would say, which is really,
Whoa,
really a
really?
very, very, very bad story
Okay,
that we
now,
have.
all right, that's where we have to really work on getting updated. I did a conference or an interview about a month ago with Bernard Dreano in Paris about Nagorno-Karabakh. We did a whole show, and it was, uh, the war was on, and I'm a little puzzled because I agree. Jill had already told me about the fact that the prime minister of Armenia was really a pacifist or a Gandhian. I guess Gandhi didn't like the word pacifism, but at any rate, nonviolent. And yet, of course, the war took place as any war would. It didn't slow it down a bit that they had a Gandhian prime minister. But now the question, the last I read,
But it
it
was,
looked as if,
as you know, the attack was started by Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan was trying to do that throughout last 5 years. And
right.
Azerbaijan
But now,
started really a big and
but
ruthless attack.
what I want to get clear is at the time I tuned in to this discussion and was aware of what was happening was just after the fighting stopped. And it seemed to indicate that the prime minister would probably be ousted for not being belligerent enough because I don't know. But is he still fully in charge as the prime minister, or is his position compromised? Is he maybe on the way out?
He is basically surrounded by three powers that are very, very badly disposed towards him because he was nonviolent and he did a nonviolent velvet revolution. That scared Mr. Aliyev, who is the authoritarian leader of Azerbaijan and a well-known authoritarian, one of the worst authoritarian, secular authoritarian. So also that scared Mr. Putin, who is also a well-known authoritarian, and that scared Mr. Erdogan, who is also a well-known authoritarian. And those three forces united their forces against Mr. Nikol Pashinyan, who is a nonviolent guy. And because of nonviolent revolution and very successful and amazing act, these forces have united and have attacked him ruthlessly. And right now he's being attacked on the internal front, of course, because Russia and Turkey have lots of people inside Armenia as well, and they are attacking him and they're trying to dispose his power, and they are basically being his enemies because he has not followed the militaristic agenda, and he and his country has been victimized right now by the three bigger countries. Azerbaijan is much bigger in population, and of course, Turkey and Russia are big empires, two empires who are trying to take over Armenia. And actually, Mr. Aliyev has promised that next year he will celebrate in Yerevan, which is the capital of Armenia. So right now, Nikol Pashinyan, who is the most democratic leader in maybe last 30 years since Riyad Gamsahurdia was in Georgia, freely elected and most democratic leader who was pushing the democratic reform agenda in Armenia. He was attacked, and right now, yes, he is in a big trouble, and the world needs to stand by him. The civilized world needs to defend him because they're planning to overthrow him, of course. And the powers that are trying to do that is Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Russia together, which is a very strange alliance. If you will say, Turkey and Russia never had a deal beside a Kars Treaty, of course. The Kars Treaty was another one when they divided Caucasus, but at the same time, we never had that kind of situation in the Caucasus for about 100 years. It's 100 years since Kars Treaty, almost 100 years, and right now the second Kars is coming.
You're using a word that I'm not familiar with. 100 years since what?
There is a city of Kars in eastern Turkey, which is old Armenian city, of course. And there are territories of Armenia and Georgia occupied by Turkey right now. Eastern Turkey is basically consisting of the lands that were Armenian and Georgian, and of course Kurdish lands are right there too. And the Turkish Empire consists of the occupied lands, lots of occupied lands. And then the Kars was made a treaty made between Bolshevik Russia and Turkey in 1920s, where they divided Caucasus basically, and Turkey ceded large parts of Armenia and Georgia. And also, Russia has occupied all three republics of independent countries of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia. And that happened through
Now, this
the
word they're using,
union of
cars.
Russia and
Sorry,
Kars is a
wait.
city, name of a city
K
in
K A
eastern Turkey.
A R S H S K A R S H. Karsh.
Kars, Kars.
Kars. Because there's another city
Karsi,
called
we say in
Karsh.
Georgian, Karsi. Yes, it's in eastern Turkey right now, but it's an old Armenian city, as well as Ani is also Armenian city, and it was seized by Turkish Empire a long time ago, and it was seized last time in 1920s.
Okay, we're talking about, I'm thinking of another city named Karsh, which I think is in Russia, but on the border of our,
So this is Kerch. This is Kerch. Kerch is different.
okay, all right.
Kars
Okay,
city is very well known. The people who are experts in South Caucasus know that very well because it has divided South Caucasus between Turkish and Russian empires. And they did it without asking the population of those countries. Right
okay.
now, it's about 100 years, in about 1 or 2 years, it will be 100 years since the Kars Treaty, and there is a Kars Treaty number two. There is a very interesting and very unpleasant and very tragic situation in South Caucasus right now, and world needs to react more because South Caucasus is being occupied by Turkish and Russians and Islamic State has penetrated very deeply, and they have done lots of terroristic atrocities towards Armenian population.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I guess you brought me up to date, all right. Not the way I want to hear it.
Yes, and this is
Uh,
basically is being these facts are reported more or less, but they're largely being ignored because of the situation with COVID-19, situation within the United States about election, who rigged the election or not, or whatever, whatever. All these subjects are overpowered. In fact, we're seeing the second genocide right now, basically starting on the soil of the South Caucasus, where the Armenian nation is being slaughtered by the Islamic State hired mercenaries.
okay, but now when there was a ceasefire, was prescribed, so to speak, by Russia, by Putin. That was his rather surprising intervention, I thought, because until that point, Russia had supposedly been on the side of Armenia, and suddenly it proposed
Until
to.
that, until the last war, yes. Until the last
Right.
war, there was a Russian base in Gyumri, which is still there in Armenia. But actually, Russia switched the sides because Mr. Aliyev is a KGB cadre. Mr. Aliyev's father was a member of Politburo. You remember during Mr. Chernenko, after Brezhnev, actually, Brezhnev was the one who appointed him to the Politburo. He was a high ranking member of the Communist Party, and he was a member of Politburo and high ranking member of KGB. And his son is right now, he was third president of Azerbaijan, Heydar Aliyev, and then his son Ilham Aliyev is also a guy who's raised in Moscow, basically, and who knows Russian very fluently, maybe not less than his own language. And he's very well versed in secular authoritarianism via Soviet Union, and he is a good friend of Putin. And right now, Putin made a very, very um, tricky exchange there and very tragic situation. He actually allowed Azerbaijan to ruthlessly attack the Armenian population in Nagorno-Karabakh, and not just in Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijani troops went into Armenia proper also. And also, Putin through his dear friend Kadyrov, who is running Chechnya, has allowed Islamic State people to fly through Turkey. Actually, they were flying through Russia to Azerbaijan, from Turkey through Russia to Azerbaijan, and Islamic State had about 4 or 5 thousand fighters there who were executing Armenians, unarmed Armenians there, and it was basically with the collaboration of three powers, Turkey, Russia, Azerbaijan, and about a month and a half was a really very ruthless, uneven battle and struggle that was going on, a military action that took place in Nagorno-Karabakh. And then we saw putting Armenian Prime Minister, who Mr. Putin doesn't really like very much. He almost hates him because he thinks somehow that democratic Velvet Revolution was against him, which is not true, actually. I don't think it was against Putin. It was against the corruption, and Armenian people were there. And Putin allowed Mr. Aliyev to attack as far as to kill more than, I don't know, maybe 5,000 people, lots of them civilians. And then he intervened when he saw it very convenient for Russia, and now Russian troops are stationed there. And basically, Mr. Pashinyan was cornered in when he didn't have any leeway to retreat, to sign the ceasefire agreement, which is not right now. It's not really very much acting because we see the violations of ceasefire almost every day. If you watch the Armenian and Azerbaijani news, you will see that there are ceasefire violations, and of course, both parties are accusing each other. But what I would see also is a very big influence of Turkey, which has increased in Nagorno-Karabakh, not just Nagorno-Karabakh, but in South Caucasus. Mr. Erdogan went to Baku and they observed a military parade together with Mr. Aliyev, where Mr. Erdogan directly declared and made a very actually anti-Western proclamation. There he said that the justice was restored, and right now Turkey and Russia are forming a six-nation union, which will be consisting of Turkey, Russia, Iran, and three South Caucasian countries, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and if Armenia wants to join it, then let them join it, which basically
Okay, now
means
wait a minute. What is this coalition, or what is it
yes.
they're forming? And Irakli, the sound quality, I have to say, I'm only getting half of what you're saying. So
I'm going to try to
I'm
talk
not
louder.
sure. I no, it's just muffled. It's just
Okay.
muffled, and I just don't. I'm not sure that I even make sense when I reply to you because I'm not sure I'm getting you enough. But at any rate, let's proceed. But I'm really worried about the quality because if I can't understand you, I don't know what's going to come of this. Anyway, tell me they're forming some sort of relationship of these countries, and why, and what is the relationship? What is this coalition or something that they're creating?
This is a coalition between Turkey and Russia to occupy South Caucasus and divide it again. This is very obvious in the South Caucasus. And unfortunately, the world does not have time and resources to deal with it, but I think the Western powers need to get involved. France has done something about it. The United States Congress has passed a resolution about it, and I hope the activities of the Western powers will become more and more active regarding the situation in South Caucasus because we are nearing the catastrophe. And if there will not be a more involvement on the side of Western powers, I do think that the South Caucasus will be completely occupied by Turkey and Russia.
Now, what has the UE said about this? They must have taken a position.
You mean European Union? European Union consists of many members, and Azerbaijani lobby is very strong, Turkish lobby is very strong, and Russian lobby is very strong. So the only country that has been active there is France, because France has significant Armenian diaspora. And the only country that has made statements about this, and to the credit of the French president and French parliament, has been France, that has been more or less active. But other than that, we haven't seen a joint position of the European Union on this situation and how to establish a peace in the South Caucasus. When there is a proposal of the peace zone in the South Caucasus, but unfortunately, the world powers are right now busy with other questions.
So basically, the EU is not doing anything as the EU.
I
They
have not
won't.
heard, I have not so far heard, and I am monitoring this situation more or less actively. I have not so far heard that European Union has been active in engaging in to mediation and facilitation of the crisis.
Okay, well, now the United States is frankly not in a position to do a damn thing anymore. Right now, Putin, I mean, Trump is still in charge, and he is completely inept. And if anything, he would do whatever Putin wants him to do, I expect, because that's what he always does. But with the transition to a new government, and the U.S. has forfeited all of the clout that it once had. There is no power there at all. It's not a dynamic force in the Caucasus or even the Middle East. I don't think it has any. It doesn't have the influence that a tenth as much influence as it did 5 years ago. So I don't think you can count on the US as being a bit helpful, even if Biden wants to be. I don't think you can count on that for anything. So France alone can't do much. And where
You
else would
know,
you get any kind of?
one of the things is that, of course, the United States has a large Armenian diaspora, which was very influential throughout the time. So in case that Democrats win the Congress and Senate, then the situation might slightly change, some people hope. And of course, I mean, there is a large Turkish lobby in America and large Azerbaijani lobby in America. So this is the oil money that is paying for
Well,
lots of
yes, but
lobbies.
my impression is there are more. Probably Armenia has Armenian expatriates to the U.S. are
Right.
probably more influential than Azerbaijan's
Yeah,
influence.
well, yes, it was very influential, and I hope they will still be, because Mr. Adam Schiff actually represents the areas where large parts of Armenian population lives, and lots of people hope that he will make those changes if that's possible. Madam Pelosi, of course, the Speaker of the House, also represents a state where is a large Armenian representation. Of course, Armenian
Are you
diaspora
talking
is
about Hawaii?
no.
Hawaii?
I'm talking about California. California is the largest Armenian presence. Adam
Yes,
Schiff and
LA
both,
mostly.
yes, LA, that's right. And Nancy Pelosi is also from California, and I think she knows, she's aware of Armenian issues. And I think Mr. Biden is, of course, also aware of Armenian issues. And he knows the situation, and that he knows that we cannot and should not allow for a second genocide to happen of Armenians.
How could he stop it? How could, if even if Biden, I mean, if his entire attention were focused on Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh at the minute he takes office, what in the hell would he do to help you?
Well, I think the establishment of a peace zone in the Caucasus is a very good way out of this crisis that would not discriminate against any nation in the Caucasus, but also will establish a permanent peace, positive peace, as Johan Galtung would say, in the South Caucasus. And we
How
have
would he
proposed,
establish? how could he do such a thing? How could anybody establish a zone of peace when he got all of these countries playing ball with Turkey and Russia?
With the participation of big powers like the United States, France, European Union, of course, all of those, including China and India. And India's role I see as very, very important because India does not have a vested interest in the South Caucasus. As right now, India is becoming a big power, and I would see India's role as a very important role. And of course, Russia, Turkey, and Iran are involved. And Iran's position is different. Of course, Iran is not as extreme as other countries, and Iran's politicians and Iran's president have been very moderate. So they're right now more on the modest side of the things and more on the peace side of the events. But
More
they
on the peace side?
right in the South Caucasus.
Okay, it's hard to imagine Iran and the U.S. Playing on the same team on any sport you can think of. But even so, assuming they both wanted it, I don't know. I mean, Russia's right there. Russia's already got troops in the region now, and he's got an alliance with Erdogan uh, and Aliyev.
Right.
I mean, that just sounds formidable to me. I really couldn't imagine that there's any other force unless, if the Security Council came in and said, don't do that, behave yourself. But, Russia has a veto, so the Security Council isn't going to do anything. And you say that even EU can't act as a concerted way, as an entity, take a position. Frankly, it doesn't look, I don't see much room for anything other than the tragedy that you're describing. Am I just
Well,
unrealistic?
that will be very tragic if we imagine that we have to allow the second genocide to happen. Now, we should not allow this to happen. And one thing that I want to tell you is that the strategic position of Russia is weakened now, is strengthened and weakened at the same time. Because
Oh,
on the one hand, Russia has entered the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh with its troops. But it's also true that for the first time in last 100 years, Turkish soldiers are in the South Caucasus. That's number one. Turkey
say
is
it again.
looking as
I
for
couldn't
the
hear
first
that.
time,
First time in 100
for
years.
the last 100 years, the Turkish soldiers are on the soil of South Caucasus. And as well as
Oh,
Turkish soldiers, we have about 5,000 Islamic State troops that are killing and slaughtering innocent Armenians on a daily basis. So this is not just Russia, and Russia does not look as a strong arm in the Caucasus anymore. Russia is one of the partners in this enterprise, and unfortunately, this enterprise is not a good one because
yeah.
the world does not like genocides. This is not acceptable.
Okay, now you're saying that even the Islamic State has 5,000 troops in where? In what country? Where are they?
In the war zone between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
And who's controlling them? I mean, I thought, I guess I'd given up belief that Islamic State amounted to anything. Well, if they're there, are they there fighting or to fight or?
There is a footage, the recording of them committing atrocities, and there is a footage of them basically admitting that they are being paid by Azerbaijani military to
Oy.
and commit whatever they commit.
Okay. But they're not controlled. I won't even speculate. Okay. So
No,
So
they are
you think
paid.
that
These are
because,
mercenaries
yeah,
who also
I
fight
see.
for jihad because there is a Muslim Christian dichotomy there also, as you know.
Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. Now, and you're saying that because they're in this coalition, Russia is in a way weakened because the other countries have more
Russia
comparatively
is
have,
not as strong today, as you know. Economically, Russia has declined a lot, and it has given up its positions in many places, including South Caucasus. And right now, it looks like Turkey is taking over with the help of Russia, because, of course, Russia wants to get as much as it can retain in South Caucasus, but it will give up as much as Turkey will force it to give up, and it will be divided between those two empires if things are not stopped.
all right.
And
Imagine,
it requires diplomacy, of course. It requires a diplomatic work. I am not suggesting here that some kind of military action will solve the problem. Of course, it will not. This is a diplomatic work that Western powers, together with India and other countries, uh, can do, and we desire in the South Caucasus then to do this because, unfortunately, we have seen only invasions and slaughters and genocides from those big empires surrounding us. And actually, Iran looks like the most peaceful amongst those three big empires um, that are surrounding the area right now, and um, majority of population is not really fearing Iran that much as Turkey and Russia. But of course, there has been a history, a long history in Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, where those three countries have conquered a lot of parts of this country. We were under the domination of Turks, Persians, and Russians and Arabs for hundreds of years.
okay, now who's leading this effort? Who's trying to make this thing happen? What you've described as a peace zone sounds something like it was invented by angels who don't even set foot on earth. There must,
I
to
can
make
even tell
something
you
real
what the
happen.
name of these angels is. I mean, it's Johann Galtung and John McDonald, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And John McDonald, who passed away last year, was an incredible U.S. diplomat who built up this whole concept of the South Caucasus as a peace zone. And of course, Johann Galtung suggested this in 1997, 23
Well,
years
yes, but
ago.
that's all very academic. We can envision any number of wonderful things, but unless you have some political leader with some considerable clout internationally making an effort to organize such a thing, it's just pie in the sky. Now, who would actually be out there, is actually out there trying to make such a thing happen? And if not exactly what you have in mind, what are the people, let's say, the best leaders in Armenia trying to accomplish? What is realistically going on to try to put a stop to this?
Well, Armenia, since 2018, since the Velvet Revolution, was extremely peaceful country, and it was not really attacking anyone. And of course, there was a history of Nagorno-Karabakh that had tragic events on both sides, and both sides suffered definitely, and Azerbaijan also suffered, and parts of its territory, as it said, were occupied, and etc., etc. But with coming to the power of Nikol Pashinyan wanted to solve these problems peacefully. And I know this for sure, and many people know this for sure in the region. Uh, because
What's
of
he really
this,
doing now?
he was punished, and right now he was forced to the war. And right now, because the guy is nonviolent and because he did this brilliant reformatic revolution, which was more evolutionary step, and his team, young team of wonderful reformers, they are being punished by the brutal war and violence, and Armenia is being punished for being a champion of democracy in South Caucasus.
Okay. Uh, that sounds like nobody is trying to do what you want to have done. Nobody in power is doing anything that's going to reverse this tragedy. Is that what I'm understanding?
Actually, there are some politicians who have expressed the um great ideas, including Nikol Pashinyan himself, and of course, Georgian President, Madam Salome Zurabishvili, Georgian woman president, also has suggested some of the good ideas regarding the peaceful arrangement in the Caucasus. It is not exactly the peace zone that she's talking about, but her proposals are close to the proposals that Ambassador John MacDonald has made throughout the years. And Ambassador John MacDonald was the guy who was working in Geneva when the first meeting of the Reagan and Gorbachev talks took place in 1985. So Ambassador MacDonald had a lot of experience in track one politics, and he suggested those ideas, really practical idealism that I would call it. And those ideas were very practical, and that they are described in his works and in the works of other people who were working with him. So these are not completely out there ideas, completely idealistic. Of course, these ideas require the collaboration of big powers around the issues of peace and nonviolence in South Caucasus. And that's why I'm saying, of course, the participation of the big powers like the United States, European Union, India, and also those three neighbors are necessary in this case. So hopefully some kind of formula will come up. The formula that Mr. Erdogan has suggested to form the six-nation unity, uh, which is basically will be against the Western powers, is not really necessarily likable by Armenians and Georgians as well. So we desire the more Western participation, and we ask for it because it's very much needed right now. And of course, people, the Western diplomats who are here, the wonderful diplomats who are right now facilitating the political crisis in Georgia and other places, know about this, and I'm sure they are doing a lot to help the situation.
Okay, give me a step-by-step plan. What should anybody do? What should you do to support, to be in touch with whom? And what should I do and get my friends or anybody listening to this to do to support somebody who has an active uh, game plan for making
Well,
some changes?
actually, this needs to be a collaborative effort, of course. It's not anyone who can suggest any kind of panacea out of this horrible situation. But I would say what we have worked so long about this, and there is a lot of expertise that is in different academic institutions, but not just academia, of course. We need some practice as well. But there are groups that have worked on a peace zones planners, like Professor Dr. Susan Allen and Dr. Christopher Mitchell, and group at George
Who?
Mason
You're
University,
sorry, you
group at
need to give
George
names.
Mason University, Susan Allen, Dr. Susan Allen, and Christopher Mitchell, and lots of other professors, also Cornell professors like Matthew Evangelista and some others who have done some work about the Caucasus and Russia and Russia's colonies. And of course, people like you who know that very well. Um, and I think that that needs to be a collaborative effort. I think the government of Canada can play a very positive role too, because Canada also has quite a large Armenian diaspora, and Canada understands the problems very well. And Mr. Trudeau I think, is also well suited to be one of the leaders of the peace process there. It requires the positive involvement with the concrete proposals of the peaceful zone in entire South Caucasus. Because if South Caucasus explodes, then it will be very, very uh, bad for entire world, because this is kind of a crossroads of different civilizations, crossroads of the Christian and Muslim civilizations, very close to the Middle East, actually next door to Israel and Palestine. And this is going to have a huge impact on the entire region, as to say, Near East and Middle East, and also Eastern Europe. So this is a very, very important region. And I do think in this collaborative effort, we need to get involved countries as Canada, uh, and of course, United States and European Union, Great Britain, that is actually not part of, Great Britain has a big stake in Azerbaijan because British Petroleum is controlling the oil resources in Azerbaijan. It's very much really kind of economic union between Great Britain and Azerbaijan because of the BP's involvement in oil exploration and transportation from Baku to Ceyhan, which is a Turkish city. So all of those elements need to be brought in, and also we need to have a diplomatic tools to make a proposal that will be suitable for all players, including, of course, Russia, Turkey, and Iran, but not just them and excluding others. I think the participation of other powers is very important factor right now to prevent a genocide.
Okay, I believe in preventing genocide, obviously. I am not aware that the Canadian government has said boo about the whole conflict around Nagorno-Karabakh. As far as I know, they have not done one thing or taken a position or made one statement. I also do not know a single organization in Canada that's working on this. Now, I'm sure there must be groups of Armenian expatriates or I don't know who that must be trying to do something, but I haven't heard about them. So for me to just, a couple of months ago, Jill was calling me and saying, "Why don't you do something?" Well, sure, put me in touch with other people who knows something, and I'll try to help. But just pick up the phone and call the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and say, "Let me talk to somebody who knows something about Armenia and Azerbaijan." Uh-uh, that's not the way it happens. There has to be some sort of, uh, you know, conversation among people with a game plan and with a particular proposal, and maybe I can help with that. But it has to be much more. Um, you've mentioned some academics in the U.S. Are they working together? Is there a group that's working together to promote what you're saying? If not, frankly, you know,
Well,
I'm
they
not
are working together. There
well.
are some groups that are working together, but academia is clearly not enough. We need to reach out to track one, track two, track three, track four, track five, and all
Right.
7 or 8 tracks. Academia is unfortunately does not have resources to solve the problems. It can provide wonderful ideas. And these ideas are on the table already. I mean, Johann Galton has suggested incredible ideas. Christopher Mitchell and Dennis Sandoli, now deceased, but he has done a lot of work in South Caucasus. So there is a lot of academic work out there. But the academic work is, of course, not the only solution, as you know. We need a
Right.
track one contribution to that, and track two, very strong and non-governmental organizations support for the peace process and reconciliation and justice. And first of all, we need to stop the military activities there, and the whole world needs to observe so that we do not have another genocide.
Well, okay. As of a month ago, when I did my conversation with, or this talk show with Bernard Dreano in Paris, I was trying to get him to find some other people from the Caucasus who could be on the show with him. And he said, oh, there are lots of people around, but they don't feel free to talk even at that moment. So the notion that we could get people actively working together as some sort of pressure group is it seems very far-fetched if there won't even, they're even too afraid to go on.
Well, I know lots of people
um,
who talk every day. I know lots of people from Armenia and Azerbaijan
yeah,
who talk every
he
day
was.
about this.
It would have
In
been good.
Azerbaijan is very difficult to talk about peace because
Well,
lots of peace
that's what
activists
he
were
said.
detained.
Yeah, he was
And
saying he
that
couldn't
is
get.
regarding Azerbaijan. But in Georgia and Armenia, it's different situation. I mean, there are lots of people who talk. And also lots of our Azerbaijani friends who are outside Azerbaijan who are not afraid to be imprisoned. They are also talking, and there are wonderful talking heads of different NGOs who are Azerbaijani.
Yeah, boy, I want you to give me instructions. Step one, Metta Spencer, do this. Step two, do that. I don't, you know, I don't, I can't envision what I can do
Well, I
right
think
now.
what you are
And
doing is
Brianna
also
was,
already very good. You are doing all these Zoom events, and I think there could be a number of Zoom events conducted on the situation. How do we improve the situation around Nagorno-Karabakh? How do we make a lasting peace there? And how um, it's not just about Nagorno-Karabakh, it's about the whole entire South Caucasus. How do we ensure the situation to revolve and, first of all, stop the hostilities, stop the atrocities, and then how to make a peaceful place, if not a peace zone, but a peaceful place. So one thing that we can help you with that, we give you contacts from the South Caucasus, some of the very important ones, and um, of course some of them have done some of really good work, including the president of Georgia has done wonderful work on this, and she's trying to do some stuff. But also Armenian politicians, really, really, I mean, first of all, they are doing a lot of work. And there are lots of people who are in North America. There are lots of people who are in Canada and America who are doing the wonderful work. But coordination is very important, and unification of those resources, because during the COVID-19 pandemic, what we feel is that lots of this um, dissonance has happened because of the different factors. Number one is epidemics, but thankfully, thanks God, we have the computer communication, so we can have a small or even bigger group of people who are communicating by Zoom or by other means, WhatsApp and all the other technologies are available to us right now. So we can do this. It's possible to do that and get the forums. And it's also possible to talk to people like Prime Minister Pashinyan and others. I don't think this is impossible. But what we need to do is we need to mobilize our resources to help the strong peace lobby, not just any ethnic lobby, but the peace lobby for not just South Caucasus as you have it for the whole world. But right now in South Caucasus, we have a horrible situation that is edging the catastrophe. That is edging the catastrophe. So to prevent this catastrophe, we need to have a strong peace lobby that will have its representatives in Ottawa. They have its representatives in Washington, D.C., in Paris, in London, and Brussels, and different places in the world. Norway, Sweden, they have been very active in promoting peace. Spain, Italy, and of course, I would have a very big hope on Indian peace building role since the Gandhiji's country always has a very special role in building non-violent relationships between the countries. And I think that Indian government can also have a very, very good role in bringing peace to the region of Caucasus, together with Western powers and the regional players.
Okay, I will try. I don't even know whether I can edit this so that it makes it more understandable. I think my next step will be to see how much I can. I may need to put some words, text there to see where I can't hear you. Maybe I can make it out and type it on the screen or something. But at any rate, I will see what I can do to edit this and then to distribute it as well as I can to people who may have a better idea than I do about how to actually take some pragmatic measures to promote what you're saying. Clearly, obviously, I'm in favor of peace in the Caucasus, and I'm opposed to the idea of a coalition of countries that want to basically occupy the region. Um, the details of what you're proposing, I don't know what to do, but the general intention behind it is something that lots of people would support, and I have lots of friends who can. So I'll do my best to try to use this conversation. One of the things I'll do is send it to Bernard
This is
Dreano.
very much appreciated, because this help is very much crucially needed right now in the South Caucasus.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our time is more than up. We've used a lot more time than I expected, and I don't know how much we can salvage because of audio quality. But you have my love and my blessings, and I
Thank you.
definitely.
Same here.
So we will be back in touch for sure, Irakli.
Yes, absolutely. We are here. You can see by the quality that we are in a war zone here, and unfortunately, is a bad situation. But hopefully, the larger community involvement from around the world can prevent it becoming from more horrible.
Okay. Blessings. Bye bye.
Thank you
Merry
very much.
Christmas.